Compañeros! Welcome to another edition of the SQL Data Partners Podcast. I am Carlos El Chacon, and I am joined today by Kevin Fiesel.
Hello.
And Eugene Meininger.
Howdy.
I feel like it's been a little while, compañeros. It's been a while since I've talked with Kevin and Eugene. Welcome. You are both
According
well.
to my calendar, it's been 12 years.
12 years. Wow. You've switched calendars, right? Gone to the, what is that?
Yeah, once the Mayan calendar ran out, I had to pick another one.
Right. And since Mars is all the buzz, you get the new Martian calendar. Is that what that is?
Well, I think the Martian calendar says we're still in March of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody wants to go back there. So
We've exited it.
What's that now?
Nothing. Please go on.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So, yeah, since it's been a little while since we've been together, right? Eugene's had a vacation. Oh, Eugene is here. Hello, Eugene.
Hi, I exist.
Yeah, you do exist.
It's been a while, yeah.
It has been a while. So you went up to the Great Lake area, right? Enjoyed yourself a little time, little R&R.
Yep. Yeah, as much as you can near Cleveland. Yep. No, we had a good time.
Okay.
Yep. We were in Haynesville, Ohio, and we stayed at a bed and breakfast and had a pretty good time.
Drew Carey, if you're listening, pay no attention to Eugene, right? Like,
I'm more worried about like Aaron Stellato breaking my kneecaps or something.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little more approachable anyway, right? Yeah.
She teaches spin class. She'll run me down, I'm sure.
Yeah, that is true. Whoosh. Okay, compañeros. We do have a couple of shout outs. Let's see. We've got Aaron Charrier, Rob Taylor, Justin Barr, Suresh Kandoth, Roland Gosling, Wilson Diago, and Jenny Wood. Thank you, compañeros, for giving us a little love on social media, connecting with us. We do appreciate it. And we should mention that in terms of upcoming events, so we've got SQL Trail coming up June 15th. So registration is not yet open. However, call for speakers is. So if you're interested in speaking, right, let us know. You can go to the SQLDataPartners.com. If you click on I think it's conference, SQLDataPartners.com/conference, I believe, will get you the link to submit to a speaker submission. Okay, and I suppose you'll notice, for those of you who are joining us live, that we are on a different day. So we have migrated over to Tuesday afternoons. We're going to try this, see if we can find a home here, and we'll figure that out. Part of the reason for that is a Twitch reason or for a live stream issue, in that Twitch wants to hold our content for 24 hours, which means we can't publish the podcast until another day, right? So we're trying to go live sooner, so that those of you who've been listening to the podcast and you're listening, wherever your podcast is found, can still get them on Wednesdays. So that's the idea. Okay, so it has been a little while since we've been together, and a couple of things have happened, I guess. Story time. Do either of you have a story that you'd like to tell?
I've got all kinds of stories. Some of them aren't even true.
Do we have a general target area or what? You made it sound like you had something specific in mind.
Well, obviously...
I was in NAM.
I think we are going for a data platform or a centric story.
So there I was in Oracle.
Yeah.
6 feet deep in a wreck, Yeah. No, you guys have been too quiet, huh? Okay, well, let me start with I guess my story, and I think we're going to want to circle back to this when we have a little bit more time, and I can put all the pieces together. But we've been running into some issues. So SQL Server 2019 in particular has the scalar UDF inlining functionality, right? So they've been making changes to the optimizer to try and help get the scalar functions a little better, right? Run a little faster. Change them so that they won't always return a single record in the execution plan when those plans get created. And so this is an extension of that. So this scalar UDF inlining will actually go in, right? Try to figure out, hey, what is it that I'm doing in those scalar functions, to get a result. Well, in certain instances, and in fact, the instance that we were running into was that it was actually trying to, I'll use the word call code that wouldn't normally get executed. And we were running into some issues. And I noticed as we were doing some patching that they introduced, I'm going to call it a bug. So they say it as much, that they introduced a bug in, so there's a SQL Server 2019 CU8. Right? Excuse me, 9. Forgive me. 9, they introduced the bug, and it's not quite fixed in CU10. So CU10 is the most recent. And so while the announcement for CU10 was all about big data clusters, right? And they updated the Linux versions they would serve and, yada, yada, yada. I was more interested in this scalar UDF inlining. And while it's a neat feature, and when it works, it can be helpful. I have seen it be helpful, but I'm also starting to feel some of the pain associated with this, making this change. And again, as we do the full postmortem, I think I want to circle back to this, talk a little bit more about it. But that's been an experience that I've been dealing with.
Let's see. I'm trying to think any data stuff. No, I'm getting to learn about Jaspersoft, which makes me sad, because it's like if they took SSRS and then just wrote everything in Java. So I've been paid far too many times to learn how to use something written in Eclipse at this point in my career. But there's that. We mentioned my vacation, and that's been helpful. That and being vaccinated is finally, and getting warmer is finally starting to catch up. So I'm pretty optimistic about things.
Yes, that is one nice thing we can point to, at least in the the United States, right, starting to get warmer. For those of you who are south of the border, might be starting to get colder. So hopefully you enjoyed summer.
The Argentinian Canyoneros. That's
right. So anything new on the Power BI front, Eugene?
So I know we actually mentioned this with a customer thing. I know they added object level security. I don't think there's a proper UI for it yet, but it's still pretty exciting to be able to say, you know what, we're not just going to hide these rows of data. We're going to hide this whole table. Like, it just doesn't exist for you. And to me, that feels a lot more secure than hoping that my DAX logic is correct for filtering out data. So
sure.
That's exciting. It's hard. I started doing the whole newsletter thing, just like I'm being summoned, I think. Hold on. I started doing the whole newsletter thing again, just like Kevin does his curated SQL, because there's just so much stuff that by writing it out, it forces you to keep up with it. But I have the feeling that there's probably news and things going on that I'm missing out on right now. But object level security is something I'm excited about.
So how are things on the curated SQL front, Kevin?
They are fantastic.
Now, I know we talked about last time, which has been a little while since I asked you about this. I was asking about automation, right? Are you automating any of those pieces yet, or is it still?
No, that's the whole premise of curated SQL.
That's right.
I am the person who's reading this and saying, "Yep, this has my seal of you should click this link." It may not always be approval. Actually, sometimes I'll link to stuff specifically because I don't like this and I'd like to talk about it. But I'll still link to it because it's interesting.
There you go. So do you have a recent example of something you've linked to that you're like, hey, let's talk about this? Azure
Oh, yeah.
Arc might have been there, but we did talk about that. So
No. Azure Arc, I just have mental like blank spots in my brain about.
sure.
Where you can for a while there was a stretch of time, probably about a year, where you could explain Azure Arc to me, and I would say, I understand what you're saying, and I've immediately blacked it out of my mind. It was like macroeconomics. I understand the words that you have said, and yet I cannot find myself caring. That's my micro bias, but that's neither here nor there. That was another life. Azure Arc. No, now I'm at a point where I can say, yes, I can find this interesting. It's probably not something that I'll jump into at this point in time, but it's kind of interesting. Now, the thing, actually, there was an example today of here's a link to something that, the person is doing something that I'm not personally a big fan of, but he did a good job of explaining it. And that was basically the syntax where you'll see two join operations sequentially. So normally you think of select star from dbo.whatever, inner join dbo.whatever 2, left outer join dbo.whatever 3. So inner join on these criteria, left outer join on these criteria. And Greg Dodd had a post about, you can also have cases in specific circumstances where you may want to perform a left outer join on the contents, or perform an inner join on the contents of a left outer join, perform a left outer join on the contents of an inner join, and get slightly different results. So the syntax is from dbo.whatever, let's say left outer join T1, inner join T2 on, and then it's sort of the inner join criteria, and then afterwards you have the left outer join criteria. And I've never liked that syntax because it's very uncommon, especially in the T-SQL space, and leads to confusion. Also, most of the time when I see it, it's from code that I want to tear apart for other reasons, and therefore take that down with it. I mean, the alternative is that you use a correlated subquery or an apply operation or a common table expression or one of other techniques. So syntactically, it's not wrong. And Greg does a really good job of explaining it, but it's something that I'm just not a big fan of.
Sure.
So yeah, that's an example of a case where, you know what? You've done well in explaining this. I don't like it, but you've done well in it. And it's not end of the world awful. It's the type of thing where if I saw it in code, I would really want a comment explaining that this is on purpose so that somebody doesn't say, oh, this query can't run. I have to change the criteria so that I move this up. And then they try to run the query and it fails because you have essentially a correlated subquery without the actual correlation or the subquery.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. So I think the idea is that so this goes back a little bit to one of the conversations we had on culture, right? And working with playing well with others, right? And even though that you're like, oh, you can do that, right? But if it's going to be confusing, right, and you're the only one that does it that way, then for the whole of the team or for the good of the team, it may be better just to leave it alone, right? Walk away and make it so it's legible, right? Or put the note in like you mentioned, right? And that be the culture, right? And let everybody know, hey, this is what we're doing.
Yep. I mean, it comes down to, in this case, it's an opportunity cost of the amount of time that it takes to train people to understand, especially new people, versus the benefits you receive from it. And when you have common techniques that are just as good, that's the onus is a lot tougher to get past for let's do something in a rather unique fashion. Instead, have it be a pattern that is easily discernible. If you had a case where doing this was significantly faster than the correlated subquery or apply operation approach, all right, you can make that argument. And if it's a case where performance is critical, yeah, let's do this. Add comments, explain it, and make it a pattern. But the execution plan is actually the exact same.
Sure.
Almost the exact same. There's a very slight difference, but it's not going to be a performance altering change.
Right.
At the macro level. I'm just tying it back together.
Yeah, we're all about big picture here, folks, right? And until Kevin goes micro, we're all about the big picture. Okay, very good. So with the warmer weather, we're still not traveling anywhere, but I have to note that I feel like the events are starting to come fast and furious again. And that I'm seeing a lot more notices, right? People are trying to do things. So there's the data Saturdays, but then the SQL Saturday. I think I saw a note about the SQL Saturday that was gonna. Did they schedule one or what was that?
So SQL Saturday is back alive
from the dead. It is undead now.
Yes. There is technically Los Angeles is the SQL Saturday event so far. They never let the name die. I respect you, Steve. Because they were always like data/SQL Saturday. So they were SQL Saturday.
You just got to do it like what, Brazilian surnames or something like that, where you just put a hyphen on everything. So it'd be like SQL Saturday hyphen data Saturday. That's the way to do it.
That's an option. But basically, right now, the SQL Saturday website is also including other events, including Data Saturdays, so that you have an idea of what's going on in the data platform space. But I would expect to see more SQL Saturdays picking back up once people realize that, hey, SQL Saturday is a thing again.
Yeah, just taking a peek. I happened to look there, and it does look like the Data Saturdays are gaining some traction. They've got the Data Weekender on there. The Group I conference is there. Some little conference called SQL Trail. Oh, so 8KB got scheduled. Looks like it got pushed to July. I'll have to follow up with those guys. I know they were looking for June, but looks like the 8KB is there as well. So yeah, and there's a couple others.
Yep.
Interesting. So what are you guys looking forward to, or what in terms of conferences? What's your soup du jour right now?
I'm looking forward to conferences being a thing. Although SQL Intersection scares me. They're doing like a June Orlando conference, it looks like, if I read that right.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, I get that I'm fully vaccinated, but I cannot imagine being in a building with hundreds of other people in June. Like maybe October. Maybe. But that scares me. Where's my calendar?
Yeah, there's a few events. They're more in the later part of the year, but Live 360 looks like they may also possibly be in person.
Oh.
NDC Oslo, they're looking to be in person, which NDC conferences in general are really good. They're developer conferences, but in general, they're really great. And the one in Oslo is fantastic. Although usually, I believe they do it in June or in another month when, it's okay to be outside in Oslo. This will be in, I believe, December. So
want to make sure you take a good jacket.
Yeah. Well, this is a nice time to plug that Call for Data Speakers website that I pointed you towards, Carlos, because I heard about the Oslo thing on that, and it's just great to see Daniel Houtmacher. I hope I'm not getting his name wrong.
I just say Houtmacher.
Yeah.
I don't even pretend that I'm going to pronounce it correctly.
He's
Daniel,
legally obligated to make hats. That's what matters with his name, right? My name means I'm legally obligated to come from the town of Meiten in Germany. But it's a great service that we missed out on by past dying. Because that was, as a speaker, I really appreciate getting an email a couple times a month, like, here's an event, here's a thing you can speak at. So I'm hoping it continues to grow.
Yep. Daniel does a really good job with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our perspective, now I'm speaking on behalf of Amanda, but in terms of getting the event and everything up there, was I remember her saying it was pretty smooth process. So, okay, well, I think today's going to be short and sweet for everybody. It's nice to get back. So I guess other thoughts that you want to talk about?
Not much. I understand that, like, we're never going to get back to normal, whatever that is. Like, my mom would say that normal is just the setting on the washing machine. But I'm ready to start getting back to normal, and I get that that's a privilege, but it's just been so nice being fully vaccinated and being able to go on a vacation. You know, if you count Cleveland as a vacation, being able to spend more time with friends, all this kind of stuff. And so it's just been a relief to be able to start to do the things that we've had to put on pause for a whole year now.
Yeah, and those of you listening right in the U.S., or I guess maybe I should say those of you not in the U.S. that are listening, please be patient with us as we. I don't want to say as we're grateful, right? I know other places it's still a real struggle, right? They don't quite have the vaccinations yet, even just access, right? And so hopefully we can be patient a little bit longer. But yes, it will be nice to get back together. That's for sure. So. So I almost feel like, we'll say that for another time. So, okay, so very good. So next time, I know one of the things that Eugene actually brought up as we were talking about, right, what to do with the with the podcast here is that he really enjoyed the single topic, kind of long form, subject, and so I am trying to get back to that, and I know Eugene and Kevin have been pretty good about it. It's been me, the one who's been a bit off, and so I apologize for that. But I do appreciate your time, gentlemen, compañeros, for those of you who are listening. And as always, if there's things that you want us to talk about, let us know, and we'll get them on the schedule. If folks wants to reach out to us on social media, how might they do so, Mr. Eugene?
Yeah, I blog occasionally, in theory, at SQLGene.com, and I tweet far more frequently than I should on Twitter at SQLGene.
Mr. Kevin?
If you leave a call for data speakers with the message, I'll get it.
There you go. You got to really want it, compañeros. And I can be found on LinkedIn. If you do connect with me on LinkedIn, just drop me a note saying that you heard you're connecting, via the podcast, and we'll try to engage in conversation. Thanks again for tuning in today. Kevin, Eugene, thank you. It's good to catch up, even if it's just for a minute. And I'll see you on the SQL Trail.
SQL Data Partners.